So I love these pictures so much. I want to keep looking as many as we can squeeze into our half hour together. The next group is the structures of God and man.
Right.
Tell me a little bit about this, and then we'll walk away. This is kind of a long, lifelong project.
This is a project that I'll say I started working on it before I even began going to Brooks or starting up. And so something that's been an idea that I had 15 years ago or more. And it's this idea of looking at kind of the interplay of man and nature. And again, a lot of my work is about looking at, whether it's Fourth Horseman, good versus evil, Miss Orange, Journey of Redemption, personal conflict, structures of God and man, looking at that interplay between man and nature, and seeing how man and nature work together. And so structures of God and man refers to God, nature, man, and the structures he builds in nature, and how the two play together and how one might overtake the other at various times.
Okay, well, let's jump right in and take a look.
This is actually 1,000 steps right here in Santa Barbara. Over on the mesa. And so just set up on a view camera, looking down the steps, it's probably a 25-minute exposure. So the ocean kind of turns into that foggy, vacant, emptiness in space. And this stairway has just been, ravaged by time and nature, and it's falling apart. It is beautiful.
And a very iconic image in terms of God and man. Obviously.
And this is definitely God and man at work together. Yeah, absolutely. This is a wonderful abandoned chemical plant out in the Owens Valley, just about, probably 20 miles south of Lone Pine on the Owens Lake bed. Okay. And so I go there from time to time and photograph it. And this is one of the chemical silos with the rusted stairway going up. Again, this is photographed on 4x5, actually a process called color acceleration. We process color film in black and white, and then reprocess it normally as color. Okay. And it gives it kind of these odd color shifts. This is a wonderful...
Ayers Rock.
Ayers Rock, Australia. I love Australia, obviously. I've been 3 times now and spent a year there pedaling across Australia. This is Ayers Rock, but back in 2005. And this is, Ayers Rock is famous for its redness, but when I got there, it was a cloudy day. And so this is actually, so I thought, well, I'm here, I'm taking a photo. So I did it with Polaroid, saved the Polaroid. When I got home, the Polaroid, I'd forgotten about it, and I scanned it, and all the goo on the Polaroid had made all those patterns. And so I colorized that black and white Polaroid, preserving the goo marks to get this image of Ayers Rock. Yeah, and great. While we were photographing it, I was trying to get a Star Trails images, and I didn't know I was on sacred land, and the ranger came, threatened to arrest me. Wow. And as I was taking down the camera, this giant meteorite came right over Ayers Rock, and I was like, oh, I can't believe I missed it. Yeah. But anyway, so it was a wonderful story.
The aleatory nature of your film processing turned out to save the day.
As I always tell my students at Santa Barbara City College, this is one of those happy accidents. Everything went wrong, and yet, it came out great.
Yeah, that's great.
I spent 11 days in Rome back in 1999, just photographing structures in Rome. This is underneath a stairwell at the Barberini Palace in Rome. And it's this beautiful palace that I was wandering through, had kind of gotten off the beaten path, and found this stairway where underneath all that beautiful classical architecture from the Renaissance was just crumbling. Piles of rocks and trash, and it hadn't been painted probably in decades, if not centuries, and it was beautiful. And again, I see man and nature, the ravages of time working on this beautiful, beautiful palace.
Yeah, and that's clearly a subject that you're attracted to.
Yes, absolutely. Again, this is the chemical plant in the Owens Valley inside, just looking straight down the middle of the chemical plant.
Now, you're often out in the desert, it seems. Why is that?
I don't know why, but I love the desert.
Is it the light?
It's the light. I think it's the openness and that sense of freedom, being out in the middle of nowhere. But I love the desert. When I was in Australia back in January of this year, spent a month in the Northern Territory, just driving across the open desert with nothing. And one person at a gas station said, do you know that you're in the middle of nowhere? I said, yeah, all right, as long as you know. Yeah. But I just love that openness and solitude of the desert. Right.
Let's go back to the next one.
This is right here in Santa Barbara on East Beach. If you may recall or remember, there's a couple of wooden pylons that go out into the ocean. Yeah. And so this is on East Beach, kind of between East Beach and the Biltmore there.
With Santa Cruz Island there in the
Santa Cruz back in the background, probably a 30-second exposure at the waves coming in on at sunset. The Goleta Pier at sunset, just after sunset.
Yeah. Never seen the Goleta Pier look so good.
Oh, thanks. And the reason it looks so good is, one, if you ever go to the Goleta Pier, look, but on the roof of the restaurant there, they have this giant floodlight. So with the floodlight at night, then again, this is color accelerated processing to make and it made the blues really, really blue. This is our Granada Theater right downtown a year ago last July.
Wow.
When they were restoring it, and I had walked back there one day. I'd parked my truck back there, and then realized that the whole back of the theater was gone, and that it was open to the sky. So I asked the foreman, "Can I come back tomorrow morning? And I won't take long. I'll set up my 4x5 and just take a picture of it." So he said, "Yeah, come on back." So at 7 o'clock, they stopped all the work. I set up my 4x5 in the middle of the ramp they built down the middle of it, and got a shot of it, and it's one of my
then they went back to work.
And they went back, but if you look carefully, you can see there's some little men inside the tractors working away.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. Monument Valley, and this is really, of course, a point of view that you've seen a million times, but when I was there, when you see it, it's just so stunning.
Yeah. Well, and you don't normally see the sky quite that large in an image, and this sepia tone is kind of interesting.
Yeah, and this is actually, if you ever want to get the classic view of Monument Valley, campsite number 25 at Monument Valley, this is it. It's out on a point. And yeah, the process, this is actually printed digitally, shot on 4x5, black and white, scanned, printed digitally, and then stained in coffee.
Stained in coffee.
Stained in coffee, yeah. This was from my trip in January, driving through the Northern Territory of Australia. And again, it was 110 degrees out probably. It was the middle of summer for them. Giant rainstorm came through. It was hot and steamy, and I just saw the road going through the water, and the road speed up, and it's just that, again, God and man, nature and man. The water's overtaking the road, and.
Well, I'm interested, we see these just gorgeous photographs. How many do you take to get to the one that you really want to show?
It depends on, it depends. If I set up my 4x5, then that's a really methodical process where I have to really think about, okay, what am I trying to capture here? Because it's a giant camera with the glass plate and the whole thing. So you set and you think. The other image, which is the one from Northern Australia, that was done with a Holga, which is a little toy plastic camera. It has 2 exposure settings, and so it's more of a spontaneous approach. So I try to do both. Sometimes I'll use that 4x5 and just really think about my images and very methodically compose and think about what I want an image to be. But the Northern Territory was me with a Holga. I thought, oh, that's pretty quick.
Right. But in general, I think your work does seem to be sort of composed, arranged, structured, stylized. It's very thoughtful.
Yeah, and even with my Holga, even as I'm driving down the road, I look for shapes and forms, and I do compose and try to place things where I want them to be.
Okay. Yeah. Let's go back to Structures of God and Man. I know we have a few more.
This is color accelerated film on 4x5 at the Salton Sea, actually at Bombay Beach, of the foam poles coming out of the water, where the part of Bombay Beach, as you may know, is flooded, and they built a dike to save the town. This is on the other side of the dike where the water was. It's now actually all this is now gone. It's slowly draining. This is the Alabama Hills right below Mount Whitney, Owens Valley. I spent a weekend driving through the Alabama Hills and photographing rocks. Again, Bombay Beach, one of the foundations of the old town going out into the Salton Sea. This is actually one of my favorite images, only because my parents are now gone, and I was raised in Pasadena in a house on the hill overlooking the Rose Bowl, and my mother and father had built the house and had all this furniture in it, and I still remember these chairs as a child, that they seemed so giant. And after my parents passed away and we had to start getting rid of stuff, I thought, well, I'm going to take this stuff out to all the places we went camping as children and photo, because my parents loved to camp and we were hiking and backpacking constantly. So I went to all the places we went and photographed these 3 chairs on various locations where we camped as kids. So this is the 3 dining room chairs from the house in Pasadena on the Solarian lake bed near Death Valley. This is from my trip in January, termite mound and a windmill. And I thought it's the perfect God and man. It's the termites building their thing, it's man building his thing. Again, on a Holga and driving down the road and going, oh, that's fantastic, gotta stop and take a picture of that. This is again Salton Sea at the North Shore Marina. There used to be a huge marina there back in the probably 40s and 50s, with buildings that were designed by famous architects, Albert Frey and a few others, which is now all abandoned. And they had a marina there for the boats, and this is where they came to get gas. And it says Texaco Marine.
Okay.
Okay, so we're looking at it from the back. boaters coming in would have seen the words Texaco Marine, knowing that this is where they could fill up for gas. Right. And that sign on my last trip down there a year and a half ago is now gone as well. So everything is slowly disappearing.
Yeah, you're capturing these things for perpetuity.
Yeah, exactly. But it's a wonderful moment. It was pouring rain that day.
Yeah.